Welcome to the Catholic with a Bible podcast. My name is Tad, a Catholic who reads his Bible and thinks that you should do the same. Today is a good day. Today is a good day. If you would have talked to me a couple days ago, I probably would not have given you that same energy at all. For the past couple of weeks, things have been a little rough. Things have been, life has been happening. Let's just put it that way. And it's been hard. A couple days ago, I just made the decision, my lunch break is here. What am I going to do? I'm going to go over and see if the church doors are open. One of my favorite places in the world is the Adoration Chapel at this church near where I work. I don't go in there very often anymore because ever since COVID, it's a really small room, and it's difficult because you don't want to make the elder people that go in there uncomfortable. So I generally have kind of stayed back. But I went to the church and I looked over and I saw, lo and behold, there was a car parked there. All right, that's fine. Maybe the main church doors are open. Let's go check it out. I walk in, and to my delight, the church is completely empty except me. I got to walk into this place, which the fact that I was alone meant that I could go in and I could really just rest in God and celebrate God in a very real, visceral way. And like most people, that's not something that I typically do. I feel like I should, but for whatever reason, that option is on the table, but that's not always done. So I walked in, I sang, I prayed my rosary, I just sat within the magnificence of the beauty that is the visuals that we see of God's creation within these churches. It was really, really nice. I mean, and I want to reiterate, while this was an amazing event, that event wasn't just an isolated thing. The next couple of days, which the stresses that have been going on in life, they didn't go away. Like those circumstances didn't disappear. However, I accepted just that after that one day, accepting that peace of God, the peace that God has to offer. It was the most amazing thing that I'd not felt in quite a while. And it's embarrassing because it's always available. God, if you open yourself up to God, it's like the visual I like to picture, and this is the same visual I make whenever I imagine what salvation is like. Well, what do you Catholics, what do you think about salvation? What actually is the situation? We're out to sea, and God is just standing there with his hand out saying, I'll pull you out of the water. Just reach up. Just reach up, say yes, and I'll pull you right out. That's amazing. And God, he offers that, and at the same time, he doesn't take us and strap us down once he gets us in the boat. He lets us exist with him. And God, he lets us jump out of the boat. No one can pluck us from God's grasp. He protects us. However, we can jump off that boat. And we can choose, God, I'm sorry. Please let me back in the boat. And he will let that happen. And the same thing just applies to that peace. Just allow it to take place, and it can occur. And since I don't have a very emotional faith, really, that type of thing just doesn't cross my mind very often. But a couple of years ago, when my wife and we went through the experience of the loss of our daughter, my wife had this type of experience on 10. We were driving somewhere after spending some time with some friends, and just those conversations come up, and she was just crying. She's really upset. And I'm just sitting there quietly because I was having my own moments and everything. And then all of a sudden she just, like on a dime, like on an absolute dime, pew, she said, "It's okay." I just kind of sat there. I didn't say anything. I didn't respond because it didn't sound like she was talking to me. And after a little time passed, I realized, yeah, she wasn't talking to me. It was almost as if she wasn't talking herself as much as she was repeating what she had heard for whatever reason, she was upset, and she was thinking about God, and she was basically saying, can this be okay? Please, can this be okay? And she got the most visceral feeling of that calm and that answer of, it's gonna be okay, which is amazing. I mean, it wasn't a message to say, don't worry, your kid's not dead, because we still lost her. And that was still difficult to deal with. That's hard to think about. But my wife asked for peace in this trial. And God said, it will be okay. She is with me. And we've talked about that moment a lot. And I asked her if she wanted to talk about that on the podcast, but I don't think she could put it into words, and I frankly can't myself. But God can smooth those waves. He can make things peaceful. If you rest in God, that no matter what you're experiencing, even if you're feeling terrible, that's a type of peace that has so many different layers and complexities to it that just you can't quite put into words because it's so supernatural. But the readings today are talking about just that, the famous story of Jesus calming the storm when they're out at sea. Even the waves obey him. And sometimes God does use those waves for a very specific purpose. Sometimes God does allow those waves. God might drive those waves, like in the story of Jonah, because a very specific thing needs to take place. You might not know what it is, but it might be a very, very specific thing that God needs you to do in your life. He may make those waves just so you can feel it and ask, God, smooth these things out. Instead of the piddly stuff throughout the day that, oh, it's no big deal, it's no big deal. But a situation where God says, I want you to rest in me. Ask and I will show you that. God wants you to reach out to him. And sometimes turbulence could be a part of you learning that you need to reach out. Just this past couple weeks, the stresses of my life, I was doing it myself. I was not reaching out. And just that little thing, just that little moment of, I'm going to give you my time. You don't demand it. There's nowhere written that it said, at this time, you need to come here, do these specific things. But I went and I rested in God, and it meant something. God didn't need it. If I didn't do that, I'd still be alive here today. But God wants me to do it for his glory, of course, but also for my own betterment. So with all that being said, inspired by my most recent conversation with Sing the Hours, great guy, smart guy. My most recent chat podcast episode I had, to close in prayer, I actually want to do something different. I want to sing the same things that I was singing in that church. I want to sing the Our Father, the Pater Noster. In nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Pater Noster, qui es in celi, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et debita nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. And with that, let's turn to the gospel reading of Jesus quieting the storm.
Luke chapter 8, verses 22 through 25. One day he got into a boat with his disciples and said to them, "Let us cross to the other side of the lake." So they set sail, and while they were sailing, he fell asleep. A squall blew over the lake, and they were taking in water and were in danger. They came and woke him, saying, "Master, Master, we are perishing." He awakened, rebuked the wind and the waves, and they subsided, and there was a calm. Then he asked them, "Where is your faith?" But they were filled with awe and amazed, and said to one another, "Who then is this, who commands even the winds and the sea, and they obey him?"